Oh, there we go. It was frozen for a second. Hi, everyone. My name's Kim Lacey. So now you get another introduction. The videos you've seen so far of me talking have been from last year, but they were just, good enough to use again. So this is me in real time today, right at 9:59 a.m., so a minute before my office hours. So I'm here if you want to talk, but I do want to talk through a couple things today. It is our week 2 weekly update. I can't believe we're in week 2 already. This course is going to fly by. So there are a couple things I want to mention just to get us going. First off, I want to talk about the introductions. I had a really fun time reading all of them, so that was really good. I'm glad that a lot of you took the time to actually jump in there, talk about yourselves, and I see a lot of people actually talking back and forth, so that's really nice. Side note, I'm wearing a fleece because I'm freezing in my office today. Isn't it summer? Anyway, so back to the intros. Really cool, really fun. I had a lot of fun reading them, responding to them. I have a few more to respond to, but otherwise, really good job. So keep up the good work on the writing. The next thing I want to talk about is a weekly response. This is what you should expect every week. I'll be posting a video on Tuesdays. Like I said, the reason why I sent out an email yesterday, the reason why I picked Tuesday was because, first of all, I'll be in my office, and it'll be during my office hours, so it's a little bit easier for me to make the video now without my dogs making crazy noises in the background. But also because it'll give you a chance to actually go through the modules, the module for that week. And if you have any questions about that module, shoot me an email or post it on the discussion board, questions for Kim. And that way I can address it in this video, so we can kind of kill two birds with one stone, basically. Because a lot of people might have the same question, so if I address it right off the bat, that'll ease everybody's mind about the that question or whatever kind of, what's that word I'm looking for? Just something that other people might be interested in learning about. So this is the weekly response, and then every week you do have to respond to something in here. And that response is really just for me to indicate that you've been watching the videos. I can see if, like how many people have clicked, but I don't know for sure if you've actually watched it. So it's really up to you what you would like to respond to. Maybe it's something you have a question about. Maybe it's something, I don't know, something personal. You're like, oh yeah, I'm wearing a fleece today too. I don't know. I'm just saying things. Just something about the response to indicate that you have watched it and that you're thinking through some of the things that I've said. So that's your weekly response. So I will post this in the module itself, and I'll email it to you, and I'll also post it in announcements. So there are many, many ways you can find it. Canvas, so far it seems like everybody seems to be doing really well in it. If you are having any questions about it, or if you really want me to walk you through, I'm happy to Skype with you, or we can do a little conference with Blue Button. That's another tool within Canvas, or just email, however you want to do that. If you feel more comfortable that way, or if you feel more comfortable talking to somebody over in IT, let me know and I'll give you their contact information, because I really want to help you out with this, and especially because SVSU will be switching over to Canvas next year. It just gives you a good heads up on what to expect. Okay, so the big thing for this week, week 2, is paper number 1, the fallacy summaries with examples. So I'm going to go through the assignment here, and then I'm going to talk through some of the little tiny details throughout. So this one, 5 fallacies, and you'll figure out what a fallacy is as you read chapter 3 for this week. Logical fallacies, they're something that seems to make sense, but something disrupts it and it goes wrong for some reason. And so you'll see the many different ways that can happen in chapter 3. So there are tons of different examples. So your goal is to choose 5 of those logical fallacies. And then for each of those, you have to find 2 examples. So you have a total of 10 examples for the entire paper. And I'll get to that paper in just a second. And you're going to have 300 words per fallacy. So for a total of 1,500 words for this entire paper. So that means, let's say you choose false dilemma as one of them. You're going to find 2 examples of false dilemma, and then you're going to write 300 words total about the examples and the fallacy itself. So just 300 words per fallacy, including your discussion about the examples. You don't have to write 300 words per example. No, I want you to write 300 words total per fallacy. I hope that makes sense. You should see by the samples what I mean by that. So there are a couple samples I'll talk about in just a second. Document design, 12-point Times New Roman or Calibri font. What you're going to do, and I'm going to walk you through this also in another video, but you're going to post a link to a Storify. And if you're not familiar with what Storify is a way to collect social media or different media things online, curate it into one, kind of like a newspaper sort of thing. And it's very simple to use. You do have to sign up for it. It's free. You can sign in with Twitter, you can sign in with Facebook, you can sign in with Google. So many different ways. You probably have a profile with one of those. If you feel very comfortable doing that, you can just log in that way. And it's really simple to use. Like I said, I'll send a video to you in just a minute so you get a better idea. But also, if you ever have any questions, just shoot me an email and I'm happy to walk you through it. So I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. It's 16% of your final grade, so it's a big chunk, so you want to spend some good time working on this. And the corresponding chapter is Chapter 3, which we're reading for this week. And you have to submit your Storify link on Canvas no later than Sunday, July 20th. So that's 2 weeks from this past Sunday, so a little less than 2 weeks to go. Like I said, it's summer, it goes really fast, so we have to get these things moving. When you do go ahead and submit your assignment, you're going to click on the Assignments tab in Canvas, and then click on Paper 1, and you'll see a little button that says Submit Assignment in the right-hand column. And what you're going to do is you're just going to copy and paste your Storify link in there, and that will be your assignment submission. You're not going to turn in an actual paper, you're not going to turn in like a Word doc or anything, you're just going to give me that link to your Storify. Also, I will always send you an email to let you know that I received your paper, and that's really important because if you don't receive that email, I didn't receive your paper, and that's a problem. So you always want to make sure that you get that confirmation email from me. Okay, let's talk about some of the details of the paper. Like I said earlier, you're going to select 5 logical fallacies, and then you're going to find 2 examples for each one of those logical fallacies. So in order to become, this is actually the paper description, it's copy and pasted right into the module. It's also, you can find it also in the files or in assignments, so lots of different places you can find exactly this. So I'm not reading anything that's different than what you're going to see on Canvas. So in order to become more familiar with different types of argumentation, it'll be helpful to apply our reading to some real-world examples. For this first assignment, select 5 of the logical fallacies discussed in Chapter 3 of Weird Things. The fallacies are listed below and also detailed in Chapter 3. They're listed below on the assignment sheet, so you can kind of see them right here. Then, for each of the 5 logical fallacies you've selected, you must find 2 examples where it has been applied. You can gather your examples from any types of sources, videos, advertisements, etc. But you have to make sure that you provide a way for the class to view it. It could be a screenshot, it could be a link, it could be an image, and you'll see as you go through some of the samples that a couple people have used different things. Most people use videos, but some people use images, some people will use headlines. I don't think there are any headlines actually in the samples, but you'll get a feel for what these examples should be as you look through the sample papers. Your examples cannot be personal anecdotes. You must find these logical fallacies in the media. So you can't say, oh, I remember this one time this happened, and this is like a slippery slope. No, you actually have to have something that you can point to. So you have to have a media example so you can include it in your Storify so that we can all see it. Also, you can't use any examples that are used as samples in class. So any of the samples that I've put up there for you are off limits. So I don't want you saying, oh, assignment's basically over here. Here are all the samples. I'll just use these in my paper. No, I want you to go out and find examples of your own. Okay, so we have all the different logical fallacies you can choose from, begging the question, false dilemma, and these will all make sense, hopefully, by the end of the week. Equivocation, composition, division, appeals to the person. Genetic fallacy, appeal to authority, to the masses, to tradition, to ignorance, to fear. Straw man, hasty generalization, faulty analogy, false cause, slippery slope, misleading averages, missing values, and hazy comparison. So those are all sorts of different logical fallacies that you'll be learning about this week. Some advice on how to find those samples. Sometimes it'll take a really careful eye to spot these, only because logical fallacies are very tricky. Like they seem to work. Like the logic in them seems to make sense. However, when you think about it, it actually, that's what makes it a logical fallacy, because something goes wrong there. And so you'll see with each of those different types of fallacies that I just read through, something happens to throw the logic off track. You might run across an example unintentionally. So when you're watching TV, or like if you're watching videos online, there might be a video beforehand. Pay attention to some of those and see how that might fit into some of the examples that we've been talking about in class. Okay, now you're going to write your 5 summaries. In each fallacy summary, you must include a description of the summary in your own words. For this one, I don't want you copying the definition in the book. I want you interpreting it and tell me what that fallacy means. Then you're going to explain how each example uses that fallacy. So explain to me why this is a good example of, say, slippery slope. Explain exactly why. And then finally, be sure to identify the moment where your sample used a logic fallacy and like where something veered off track. That's sometimes an easy way of thinking about it. And then finally, suggest one way you could make the example more logical. So if you were to revise it or fix it, what would you do to make it make actual sense instead of like, false, like fake sense or whatever. So for example, one of the samples you'll watch is a Comcast commercial. I think you've seen this one. Like, when Joe's watching TV, he gets angry. When he gets angry, he goes to karate class. When he goes to karate class, he punches windows or whatever. Don't let Joe punch windows. I just made that one up, but that's an example of like a slippery slope type of argument. So you might say, okay, in order to fix this, it seems a little ridiculous to go, okay, well, he's going to take karate class, and then he's going to go break a window, and then, that does not have anything to do with Comcast per se. So you could address the fact that it doesn't have anything to do with the product, but it's just a way of actually selling what's there and a silly way of doing that. And then finally, you're going to create the Storify, creating the links to all 10 examples and summaries. And again, I'll post that video in just a minute. But what I would like you to do, and I think this is a really great way of doing it, is kind of writing your stuff in Word first, maybe copying and pasting the links in a Word doc, or whatever you want to use. You're not turning it in, so you can use whatever you want to use. And typing it in there first, that way you can go through, you can correct some of your errors, you can go back to the document whenever you want to. Take a look at it in that form first, and then when you go to Storify, just copy and paste all that stuff into the Storify board itself. So you have at least the document that's good, it's saved, nothing's going to go wrong with it, and that way you can, when you're ready to actually play around with Storify, you can just copy and paste your stuff into the Storify board. If you have questions about any of this, please, please, please email me, let me know, post a discussion on the discussion board. I'm happy to help you through this. And I've mentioned this before that I will read drafts at any stage. So if you're writing and you're kind of unsure about what you're doing, or like, I think this is what she wants, or I'm not quite sure if this is what slippery slope means, or if this is a good example, send me an email. I'm happy to look at it. I will read all or some of your draft. Just give me a little bit of time to do so, like maybe at least a good day or two before the deadline, because I want to make sure I give you some feedback. Okay, so that's paper 1. The next thing that we're going to be talking about is the logical fallacies. I do have that video posted. It is in the module. It's a YouTube and a Vimeo. They're both exactly the same thing. I just wanted to give you some options in case you can't access YouTube. At least you have the Vimeo. Oh, if you can't access any of the videos, let me know, because I'll try to send them in a different file as well. There are examples of logical fallacies, so you're going to be spending a lot of time this week watching videos, but they're fun. I like to pick ones that are just funny because I like funny things, and who doesn't like funny things? But there are several of them, so you're going to have little bit of time watching those videos. I will give you like a little heads up. There is one, I think it's at the very end. It's Sony in their new product. It's really funny, but if you don't take to swearing real well, it's probably not the best for you. And it's also not safe for work. So I wouldn't watch that one, you know, if you have kids or if you're in the office or something. I wouldn't watch that one there, you know. So make sure that it's okay. You can watch it one privately, or if it offends you and you don't want to watch it, that's fine with me. Okay, so those are the videos you're going to be watching. So that'll give you a better idea of what it is logical fallacies mean. Also, you have those sample papers that you'll be going through. So those are a bunch of different examples as well. So you should be like overloaded and confident about what logical fallacies are by the end of the week. Okay, another thing that we have going on this week is our discussion board. And what I want you to do this week, in terms of the logical fallacies and the questions, we have 2 discussion boards going. And what this is, we'll be using this throughout the next couple weeks in order to continue our conversation about logical fallacies. So once you're done reading Chapter 3 and watching my video about logical fallacies, which is really just a brief discussion of Chapter 3, but Chapter 3 really has the details of what these logical fallacies are. There are 2 boards that I want you to pay attention to, and they're linked in the module, so you can see they're blue links in there. One is a content question, and then another is a philosophical or deeper meaning question. So the difference between these is pretty simple or straightforward, I would say. A content question would be something that you can actually point to an answer. Usually just has one answer. You can point to something in the textbook, you know, that say like, this is the answer to this question. That would be a content question. Now for a philosophical question or deeper meaning question, that's something that would generate conversation. So that'll help you say, okay, if I were in class and I were to ask a question, and if it were my job to say, get, you know, everybody talking about something, what would I ask? What kind of question would generate some discussion or conversation amongst people? That's the type of question a philosophical or deeper meaning question is. And so that's the type of question you're going to be posting on those 2 different boards. Like I said, over the next couple weeks we'll be returning to these. You'll have to respond to some other people's questions. So we'll come back to those. So you're not just posting the questions there for nothing. We will be returning to them. So that's the discussion board. And then finally, you have the study questions quiz. It is in a quiz form, and the only reason why it's in a quiz form, don't think of it as a quiz. I know it says in the instructions, don't think of it as a quiz, just think of it as bookwork. Please do that. It's not a test or anything. It's just, for some reason, it's one of the things I haven't figured out how to do in Canvas yet. But it's the easiest way for me to put in questions for people, so you can answer them on your own, and they can just be your responses. So when I go and grade those papers, grade those questions, I can see just your responses as opposed to like going through the discussion board and seeing everybody's. So this is just like a private way of you responding to those questions and me like making sure you understand the content. So again, don't think of it as a quiz. It's really just the only button I could find to actually make this work right now. So you can just relax about that idea of a quiz. It's not that. I think that's everything I have today. Covered all week 1, responses, blah, 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 the reading. I hope you're enjoying the reading, how to think about weird things. It does obviously talk about like ridiculous things, but I think that's fun because if we can think about ridiculous things in a logical way, you know, when we go to make real world arguments, they're a little easier because we know how to make ridiculous things seem okay. All right, well, I'm going to stop talking. It's always very weird for me to like look at myself as I'm creating a video because I do all these weird hand gestures and whatever. But I hope you're having a good week, and shoot me an email if you have questions, whatever. And I'll see you right back here next time, next week. All right, bye everyone.